people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Set to return to action this weekend south of the border. Mexico's own WBC Super Bantamweight champion Haney Mercado will be returning to action against veteran journeywoman Laura Lecca.
A prelude.
An appetizer to a bigger fight, I'm told, I have it on good authority, that provided that Haney wins this weekend, stays WBC champion, she has agreed to a deal to defend her WBC title afterwards against Matchroom's own Ramla Ali.
It's just a rumor. It should be treated as such, but it's a rumor that I was told a little over 2 weeks ago.
That Matchroom had made several attempts to convince the reigning WBC champion to defend her title against their charge, and it took a couple of tries, it took some convincing, but she finally decided to bite. And all she's got to do is stay champion this weekend, make it past Laura, which I think she can, and provided she doesn't suffer any cuts, bumps, or scrapes, any injuries.
The fight is on.
Don't shoot the messenger, but a part of the rumor I was told is that the fight between Haney and Ramla would land on the undercard of the already announced Bam Rodriguez versus Gallo Estrada fight.
Set to go down in late June, on the 29th.
It's a tight schedule that would leave Haney Mercado with all of May and most of June to prepare for the match.
They're supposed to be offering her very good money for this assignment. It took some convincing.
And some coins. You know, I figured that when they put Ramla Ali in there with Julissa Guzman, the hard-punching Julissa Guzman, it wasn't for no reason. Julissa Guzman just so happens to be a common opponent between Ramla Ali and Haney Mercado. Haney fought her some years ago, won a hard-fought points decision.
Ramla fought her 2 times in more recent years. She got herself knocked out in the first fight, but won a points decision, avenging the loss in the second.
I figured then they didn't make that fight for no reason. That was an audition for what could be a Haney Mercado fight. They didn't land on that opponent by accident. And after 2 fights, now they feel that Ramla is ready for Haney Mercado. But is she really?
Oddly enough, Haney Mercado is many years younger than Ramla Ali, who's 34.
Haney's only 26, but she is vastly more experienced as a professional, with many more rounds in the bank than Ramla Ali.
Much deeper resume.
And a granite chin. Haney Mercado has been in there with some strong punchers, some really strong punchers. Julissa Guzman, who I just mentioned, she knocked out Ramla Ali. We know she can punch. And Amanda Serrano up there at featherweight. It's important to note that Haney Mercado spent most of that fight on her toes and on the run, but she was able to weather what shots got in, what punches landed. Haney Mercado can take a punch.
She's tough.
But if she's so tough and so much more experienced and younger even than Ramla Ali, then how can Ramla hope to win? And Ramla can hope to win by keeping this a boxing match. I've watched the progression of Haney Mercado into the fighter that she is today over the years, and where before she was more of a mid-range to inside brawler, a flat-footed one. Now she's more of a boxer and more of a mover. And if Ramla can trick her into trying to have a boxing match instead of a shootout, Ramla can outpoint her because Ramla is long and limber for the weight. And even though she doesn't have much pro experience, she does come from a good amateur background.
She's got to conjure that up.
Stay on the toes, stick and move, use the jab, and keep it long distance, long range. Don't get into exchanges with Haney Mercado. There's no point. You're not going to knock her out. Amanda Serrano didn't knock her out. Julissa Guzman didn't knock her out. Ramla's not going to knock her out. Keep it a boxing match.
Out-hustle her.
That's the trick. Manny Robles has done a fantastic job of helping Ramla Ali transition from an amateurist style to a more pro style.
But for this assignment, she might have to return to her amateur roots. points fighting.
Long distance behind the jab, setting up the straight shots, because Jamie Mercado, for all of her virtues, she's a bit slow. She can move and she can punch and she can box. But to the eye, in spite of being some years younger than Ramla, she actually looks slower than Ramla. So if Ramla can trick her into keeping this a chess match, a boxing match, she may outwit her and outpoint her. Just some things to think about ahead of this weekend's contest between Jamie and Laura Lecca before it becomes about Jamie and Ramla Ali.
That's what Ramla's got to do, if and when the time comes.
She's 34 years old. She's getting to that point to where it's either shit or get off the pot. It's now or never if you want to become a champion. That rumor checks out, that rings true, and Jamie makes it past Laura and faces Ramla next. That's just some things to think about.
Men's super lightweight or welterweight news. This is Ryan Garcia we're talking about.
Right.
Ryan Garcia took to his social media and stated, "Floyd told me to come in over 3 pounds." Not surprising.
In the build-up of this fight, you often heard Ryan say all these nice things about Floyd and the influence that he's having on him, the advice and how he loves him, just all this nauseating stuff, but that there was a friendship there, so that the idea to come in 3 pounds overweight at the very last minute could have come from Floyd is not surprising, because that's more or less what Floyd did to Juan Manuel Marquez when they fought.
He had to pay a fine like Ryan had to pay a fine.
And he paid it, so did Ryan. In a manner of speaking, I believe the number was $500,000 for each pound over the limit. Devin confirmed that Ryan paid the penalty, and Devin paid the price.
So you think this is all Floyd's doing?
I don't think anything. That's what Ryan said verbatim on his own social media, that the idea to blow the weight at the last minute came from him. And we know this is something that Floyd himself has done before. We know that him and Ryan, they've been palling around, so it's entirely possible
Entirely petty.
that Floyd may have been meddling in affairs that don't otherwise concern him, because it's not like Ryan Garcia is a Mayweather Promotions fighter and Devin isn't either. So what does Floyd care? Why is Floyd getting involved?
Because Bill Haney's been talking a lot of shit.
Do you remember a few weeks ago how he was carrying on that the Mayweather era is over? Do you remember all that stuff and all those shots that he was taking at Floyd?
Listen, no, wait a minute, but I'm still in the street. Listen, I'm still in the street, and if I see your kids, wait a minute. If I see your kids, wait a minute, nigga, if I see your kids in the street, what you mean nothing glorified? Nigga, I'm just seeing your kids in the streets, nigga, and told somebody, nigga, back the fuck up, leave your kids alone, nigga, because I'm a thoroughbred street nigga. And you know your kids be in the streets, nigga.
They can do whatever they want.
Squares. But they squares. Yeah, you said they'd do whatever they want to do, you clown ass nigga. What you mean your kids can do everything? And you got $150 million.
I didn't say, listen, I didn't say that. I said when kids
you just said that they can do whatever they want to do.
When kids get to a certain age, they're gonna do what the fuck they want to do anyway.
Nigga, you buy them
so what are you talking about?
Everything, nigga. You buy them bitches everything. How you can't buy your kids everything the same pocket, nigga? Lame ass, nigga.
Why are you worried about what I'm doing with my mom? Now you pocket watching?
Nigga, I'm a thoroughbred nigga. You already know it.
Now you pocket watching?
Cool. Pocket. I don't give a fuck.
Bill,
pocket.
You shouldn't be worried about. You shouldn't be worried about what another man doing for.
There are about 9 more minutes of that if you've seen the full video. I just took out the juicy parts, the spicy parts.
What the hell is Bill arguing about?
Your son loses to Ryan Garcia, so you start taking shots at Floyd Mayweather live on Instagram. What's it all about? For those that don't already know, Bill Haney and Floyd Mayweather have known each other for years. And I don't know, I'm just guessing, but this may have something to do with Floyd operating in the shadows behind Ryan Garcia and using him to sabotage Bill Haney's son, Devin Haney. Maybe that's what the rift is really all about, because what the hell does Floyd Mayweather have to tell Bill Haney or vice versa? What's the back and forth all about?
No, Bill's just mad his son got his ass kicked. He's embarrassed. He needs somebody to take it out on.
If only it were that simple. According to Ryan, the idea to blow the weight by 3 pounds came from Floyd. And if it did, which I believe, well, that would make Floyd guilty of meddling in affairs that don't otherwise involve him to sabotage Bill Haney's son.
Why would he want to do that?
Because Bill Haney's been carrying on about how the Mayweather era is over and taking shots at him. I mean, the way I see it, all's fair in love and war. While I might understand why Bill is emotionally compromised,
Son got his ass beaten. He had to watch it.
he has reason to believe that Floyd's the reason that Ryan blew the weight, that Floyd is operating against them. He's been operating against Floyd. So what do you expect?
Back to Ryan.
Ryan said Floyd told me to come in 3 pounds over. He told me, fuck Bill Haney. Whatever.
It's a soap opera.
Told Patrick Bet David on his podcast, usually he being Devin Haney, usually he's the bigger guy. Usually he's the weight bully. But the weight bully got bullied.
Is that what happened?
Well, listen, Devin and his father know at what weight Devin walks around at, and they know how much weight he was cutting to make 135 and how much weight he was cutting to make 140. You're the ones rolling the dice.
Ryan being disingenuous is one thing, but that catching up to you, cutting that much weight, that's another.
I saw Devin the day before the fight, and his eyes were sunken in, looked gray, looked gaunt, and it seems that making 140 pounds was starting to prove just as difficult as making 135 was. And that has everything to do with how much weight you're cutting. So that was going to catch up with you sooner or later. Ryan being disingenuous is one thing, but that is quite another. And perhaps if you weren't killing yourself to make the weight, maybe the punches wouldn't have done as much damage as they did. But if they did, it's because you were already killing yourself to make 140. Ryan knew that and exploited it.
Devin wants a rematch.
He took to his social media and stated, first off, I want to say, Alhamdulillah, Allah is the perfect planner and I trust his plan, no matter what. I came up short, but this is boxing. And if anyone knows me, they know that I am a true competitor and always wanted to test my skills against the best fighters in the world. Ryan, despite the circumstances, was victorious that night, and that's fine. I do feel like weight played a role in it, but only Allah knows. I would love to run it back and give the fans a fair fight within an agreed weight. With that being said, I am currently enjoying my time with my family and friends, as well as making up my days of Ramadan. Thank you to all my supporters and everyone involved in making this event happen. After I finish making up my days of Ramadan, I will tell you guys what's next. I appreciate everyone that has reached out. I am overwhelmed with love. I will be back better than ever. Inshallah.
He's not getting a rematch.
At least not right away. What Ryan's talking about is either Sebastian Fundora at 154, Broly Romero, or Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Quote unquote. This one would be hard to make.
Is there a reason he's calling out fighters that are otherwise preoccupied? Sebastian's not coming back until the end of the year due to his injuries.
Isaac's supposed to be fighting on the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov against Jose Valenzuela. We've talked about it, and everybody knows it.
Leaving Rolly Romero.
Rolly, who just got knocked out by Isaac. So let's take a head count. Javante knocked him out. Isaac knocked him out. Now Ryan wants to knock him out.
I never saw such a shitty boxer walk into so many pay-per-view opportunities. So many paydays.
Same thing that makes him such a shitty boxer is the same reason he keeps walking into those opportunities, because they know he's shitty, they know he's cannon fodder, but he makes for good press conferences.
And to my knowledge, he's not otherwise preoccupied with anything. I think he's the last remaining Mayweather Promotions fighter, at least one of the few.
Because, I mean, we know Richardson Hitchens left them for Matchroom. Jaleel Hackett just stated that he's a free agent. I don't know what other fighters Mayweather Promotions may have left besides Rolly. If Ryan is willing to give him that opportunity, then Mayweather Promotions should not stand in his way. What else do they have him doing?
People are stupid enough to buy that fight.
Ryan versus Rolly. Just off of the press conferences alone, this brainwashed generation of mongoloids are dumb enough to get behind that thing.
So fuck it. Do it.
Finally, another look at what is to be the Terence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov fight. What is Crawford's maiden voyage to the junior middleweight division in his mid-30s. What makes this a dangerous fight? Why are people saying that? Are they just talking up Israel Madrimov so that Crawford gets credit for beating him?
How could a guy with only 10 fights be a threat to the pound-for-pound, arguably the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world?
Make it make sense. A large portion of the American boxing community at large are unfamiliar with Israel Madrimov because they don't expand their horizons. They don't branch out. If the fight doesn't involve an American or Mexican fighter, they are largely ignorant to the rest of the boxing world. For God's sakes, they're just now starting to acquaint themselves with British fighters in the UK boxing scene as well as the Asian one, even though these are fertile markets in the world of boxing. So when an Israel Madrimov comes up, I don't expect them to know much about him or what they're talking about. But he is, in fact, a credible threat to Terence Crawford for several reasons. For starters, he's a younger man than Terence Crawford. Terence, as accomplished as he is in his mid-30s, going to a new weight.
The guy's bigger, the guy's younger, and he's unbeaten.
You say that he only has 10 professional fights, but what about all of his amateur experience? That's why, after only 10 professional fights, he's had what it takes to become a world champion and fight the guys that he's fought.
Not dissimilar from what we saw with Vasyl Lomachenko and Gary Russell many years ago. When Vasyl Lomachenko fought Gary Russell, he had a professional record of 1-1. 1 win and 1 loss.
Whereas Gary was unbeaten at the time. What was he, 21-0? 21 professional bouts to Loma's 2? But because of Loma's amateur background, he was ready for a guy like that. The same logic applies here. No, Israel doesn't have a lot of pro fights, but he does have a lot of amateur experience, and he is naturally bigger and younger than Terence. That's what makes him dangerous.
Among other things.
He's a puncher, and he's not a flat-footed puncher. He is a fleet-of-foot puncher. Very bouncy and very tricky. Mid-range to inside, stepping out, then stepping back in, and generating great power when he does it. So you can see how for a fighter who's in his mid-30s at his 4th weight, that could create a dicey situation. I have the utmost faith in Terence Crawford that he can get the job done, but it would be a mistake to overlook this guy.
He's a threat.
You don't understand that if not for Turki Al-Sheikh's generous investments into the sport of boxing, and this card in particular, a fighter like Israel Madrimov, even with a title, would be relegated to the Who Needs You Club, because he doesn't have the kind of marquee value yet to where people are going to want to roll the dice with him.
High risk, low reward.
Even with a belt. Not dissimilar from what you see happening at middleweight with Yanni Bekalim-Kanalai. In spite of him having 2 belts, he's struggling to find opponents. That would be the situation for Israel Madrimov if not for his excellency and setting up this match.
People wouldn't want to fight him.
A well-schooled amateur who can stay on his toes and still generate power when he does it, mid-range to inside, staying within close quarters to draw your lead, then counter it.
Yeah, I got faith that Terence Crawford can get the job done, but it would be a mistake to think this guy is a pushover.
He's not, especially not for a fighter who's getting long in the tooth, he's getting up there in age, and he's campaigning at a new weight. This is Crawford's junior middleweight debut. There are safer choices out there than Israel Madrimov to kick off a junior middleweight campaign.
So believe me when I tell you, this is a good fight.
We're just lucky that the Saudis can make it worth the fighter's while that we're going to get to see it.
Hell of a fight.